where Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has accused the Kremlin of resorting to energy terrorism as Russian troops make few gains on the battlefield. President Zelensky also said about 4.5 million people were without power following Russian attacks on his energy network. We have more in this report.
Households across Ukraine have been temporarily disconnected from energy supply under an emergency schedule aimed at stabilizing the nation's fragile electric grid. After suffering a series of painful defeats on the battlefield, Russia has stepped up attacks in recent weeks on electricity infrastructure in cities away from the front lines. In recent weeks, Russia has carried out large-scale missile and drones attacks on Ukrainian power facilities. According to President Zelensky, in the last month, a third Ukraine's power stations have been destroyed, which has forced the Ukrainian government to urge citizens to try and use energy sparingly. He said Russia's targeting of energy infrastructure was a sign of weakness as Russian forces failed to make much ground on the front line. President Zelensky's accusation comes as reports emerge stating that Russian troops are leaving the occupied city of Kherson, signaling a major retreat for Russia. A Moscow-installed official in the Kherson region has indicated Russian troops might pull back from the west bank of the Dnieper River. The United States sounded an optimistic note on Ukraine's ability to retake the strategically important southern city of Kherson was more wary. But Ukraine said it was still fighting in the area and remains cautious in case Russia is setting a trap for Ukrainian troops. A Ukrainian counteroffensive in the area, which has been underway for more than a month, has meant that Russia has had to reassess its battlefield objectives. Russia's capture of Kherson, a major city in March, was seen as one of Moscow's most significant achievements in the war.
And joining me via Skype to discuss more on this is global affairs analyst Kunle Falowo. He joins me from the US. Good to have you join us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to start our conversation from one of the headlines we had in that report where it has not been reported that there might be a possible signal of withdrawal by Russian troops from Kherson region. What exactly do you think is playing out in that region?
Yes, definitely. There seems to be a lot of territorial losses on the side of the Russians, most particularly the eastern part and the southern part of Ukraine that was gained by the Russian military over the course of the 7 months of this serious invasion stroke war. They've made quite some gain, but now the counteroffensive from the Ukrainian side, it's really upended the previous gains of the Russians, and hence we're seeing some form of retreat on that side. Not only that, we're also seeing that the counteroffensive is really effective, it's working, and the Russians are battling to reassess their tactics and go from there.
And so where does this leave the war? Because we also know that Russia is attacking very key energy infrastructure in Ukraine, and some parts of that country are in total blackout. So where does that leave the war? Because it does seem that Russia is making some gains somewhere, and Ukraine is also making some gains in terms of territories.
Well, the war is not over yet, as we all know that. And when we look at the trajectory of and the direction where it's going, of course, both sides are fighting at the battlefield, and definitely there will be some losses on both sides. But what we're looking at now is Russia trying to leverage on the civilians, the Ukrainian civilians, livelihoods and property, and particularly the energy. We're going towards the winter season, meaning that a lot of Ukrainian houses will be needing a lot of energy to heat up their houses, their cars, and whatnot. But now that he's attacking or he's instructing his commanders to attack sub energy companies and gas stations or power plants in the Ukrainian side. This is a low below the bell a punch, on the sides of the Ukrainians, because it's happening, and people are potentially going to be dying from cold, and that's what he's saying now. He's losing battles in the battlefield, and now he's going to attack, you know, the civilians. And where other people are also saying that is trying to weaken the defense and also weaken the spirits of the Ukrainians to go out there and fight. Now, when you're having to attack their energy threshold, it means that they're not going to be capable of going to the battlefield to fight when they're in total darkness. So this is below the belt punch on the side of the Russians. But as it is, we're optimistic that the Western allies and the European Union particularly are helping and encouraging the Ukrainians to go back to the battlefield and continue to fight in the struggle to retake their country.
And as a lot of military strategists have said that, look, Russia is desperate for any kind of victory. If Russia continues to suffer setback in terms of territories that it has taken earlier, how concerned should the West be about the rhetoric of nuclear weapon?
Well, it's a very tumultuous, dire situation in Ukraine right now, and also Russia. And when we look at the energy crisis, the Western allies, particularly the European Union, have serious concerns for worry. Not too long, well, yesterday, G7 ministers from the G7 countries had a meeting in Germany, and they had this discussion over and over again, because it's not the Russian-Ukraine war has really churned the tides, and it's destabilized the world economy as we know it. The energy crisis going into just not Ukraine, going into the entire of Europe. And let's not forget that Russia is a powerhouse when it comes to energy. They are one of the formidable country that supplies majority of the European countries oil and gas. So Mr. Putin is leveraging on that, and that seems to be causing a lot of chaos because
that's just so much
on the gas and energy of the Russian people. Yes,
it does mean that the West has a cause for concern. Thank you so much for talking to us, global affairs analyst Kunle Falowo.
My pleasure. Thank you.